Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I'm Ivy Slater. We have concluded the series on how to be a visionary leader in unexpected times. We had some really insightful and interesting interviews with Carrie and Mary Ann and Mark and Jennifer, and I'm just naming a few. If you've not touched base and listened to them, these are leaders who I will refer to as a global pandemic might not be the rodeo they've lived before, but they've lived other business interruptions and has an enormous amount of perspective, insight, and knowledge on how we move through business interruption. I think it's important, and if I haven't shared this story before, I remember the day that I was introduced to business disruption or interruption. And global pandemic is not what I've lived before, but it's what we're living right now. Back in the day, I opened my office door on a Monday morning. It was myself and I had 3 other business partners. It was a result. We had merged 2 companies about 5 years beforehand. And this Monday morning, I opened my door and our receptionist, Peggy, is sitting at her front desk crying. And I was like, Peggy, what's wrong? And she just looks around, and I looked around. I was like, wow, half the office was cleaned out over the weekend. My other partner was still there and came out, and I said, what the? Fill in the blank, ladies and gentlemen. They're like, they left. They took, the merger is, the other half, they just left. They left over the weekend. They cleaned all the stuff out. And we started going through of what did we need to do as business owners. What was the smart things to do? Of course, fiscally responsible. We immediately checked the checkbooks. We checked the banks. We called our accountant, our attorney, the bank, etc. And we did the things that were needed to be done in that moment. And instead of being devastated as Peggy was or felt at that time, I said, take a breath, calm down. We're going to be fine. And I knew it'd be fine because I knew my numbers, and I knew I'd be fine, that I could self-support myself and open my own business independently of partnerships at that time forward. Now, I might not have been through a business dissolve like this. I might not have expected it at this time frame. But what I did know was that I could survive, and I was going to survive. And these are some of the insights that you can get by going back and listening to, if you haven't caught them all before, this series we just concluded. It was important to me to do this series because we're living in a business interruption right now, a disruption, which actually leads us to an enormous amount of possibility and opportunity. How the greatest business leaders go on to lead through this. I had my company, Slater Graphics, for many, many years when I went out on my own. And during that time was the morning of 9/11. And I remember being in Times Square that morning around 9 o'clock on my way to the office after I dropped my kids at school. And on the big screens, for those of you who are familiar with New York, watching the first plane hit on the Today Show that was being televised at the time in Times Square. And the first thoughts of, what does this mean and what do I need to do right now? I remember one of the interviews, somebody talked about that and referencing what was those actions in that time. What do we need to do? So think about, we don't know when business disruption is going to happen. What can we be doing right now? As we move into August, I've been talking to a lot of clients about calendaring and productivity. How to be the greatest leader and the most productive leader during these unexpected times. And it's really about understanding where and how you should be prioritizing your energies, your efforts, and it aligns with our values. I was actually just talking to somebody this morning, and a great business leader, huge in finance, majorly successful company. But in our conversation, I questioned, are you clear about your actions right now and in your productivity? And he's like, Ivy, it's a good call out. He goes, I have to get some things better in alignment. And that's important. Understanding how you're aligning your own values to your productivity in your business. If you're feeling have not been productive, if you feel you've gotten derailed a little bit during this unexpected times, what can you be doing to increase your productivity? Start by doing a brain dump. Everything that has to be done, and then start categorizing in order of priorities. When I look at priorities, I'm looking at what moves my business forward, what moves my life forward in the matter of priorities of what I want to address first. And both my business and my personal life has huge value. What are you doing about that? How are you navigating it? If you have not yet done that, great exercise. I'll repeat it again. Brain dump everything you have that you think you should be getting done. Everything, ladies and gentlemen. Everything from, if it means cleaning out your car, organizing your office, cleaning your house, creating a list of follow-up, creating a list of reach out, organizing some calendaring, getting a mani-pedi. Dump it all out there and then start prioritizing it. Truly, what is first, what has to be second, what has to be third? Sometimes you say, hey, the mani-pedi is not all that important, but if it gets you feeling better about yourself, it is important. Because the more we feel positive, confident in ourselves, the more actions we take. The more actions we take, the more success we deliver and receive. So in that, think about your productivity. Think about what you could be doing for yourself to increase productivity. I was just talking on one of the Visionary Leader calls, and I shared one of the tips I do in my own calendaring. I calendar out the first 3 weeks of the month, and I leave the last week as a swing week. It's not that I don't work the last weeks, I just don't program it so quick. I leave that for client follow-up, sales follow-up, creativity, new ideas, expansion, marketing, right? If I don't leave some time open for that, I get very busy in the busy work of running a business and not expanding my business. So look at your calendar and take control of it. Don't let it control you, you control it. Another client was sharing that she's working in several different calendars, a home calendar, 2 different business calendars. Said condense. We want to see things at one glance. It keeps us more productive. It keeps us less stressed and more efficient. Efficiency is going to win the race. Remember that. So, love to hear your takeaways from today's episode. We talked a little bit about business disruption and how we're navigating through it and the importance of productivity during this time. Remember, and one of the things I truly, truly believe from the bottom of my heart, this global pandemic that we're living through, and I'll repeat that, living through, gives us an enormous amount of opportunity to connect to possibility and business opportunity, life opportunity. If you're running, if you're panicked, if you're fearful, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're missing all the possibility and opportunity. If you're unsure what what I'm talking about, please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or via our website at Slater Success. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen and listeners. Your future is in your hands. Take this space to create the greatest successes you want and fulfill them, live them, and celebrate them. We're being given an enormous gift right now to be able to reground, get in touch with our values, and actually move ourselves, our businesses, our leaderships forward. So thank you for joining me here today. Leave your comments below, your greatest takeaways, and I will see you on next week's episode of Her Success Story.